Hello. How are you?
Hello.
It is myself and Mark and Jeremy Haun today.
Jeremy Haun.
Hey, how's it going?
Fabulous writer, artist, Jeremy Haun. Man about town.
Great to see you guys.
You as well. Jeremy has been one of my favorite artists for a really long time. We go way back. I worked for a convention in Florida for a long time, and we brought he and several of his fellows in as guests, and they were nice enough to come and hang out with us. You've done all kinds of stuff, but you've got, what, 3 different creator-owned books going on right now? Because you've got Red Mother at Boom, The Realm at Image, and Beauty still going, right?
We have one more issue of the Beauty to finish up. Yeah, so, they're all in different phases right now. The Beauty, and we kind of hit the pause button on the Beauty, and, well, we hit the pause button on everything, right? Because, that's what's going on right now. But we're taking a break on both The Realm and the Beauty.
Oh, you're frozen. You think your camera froze?
I think so.
That or he's just really still. Like
Right.
He's invisible.
Oh, there he is. Almost.
Let me check and make sure that my connection's good.
No problem. We can wait. We're easy.
In the meantime, we'll play Jeopardy. Go, Mark.
I was not expecting that. You'd think I would be.
Okay, I'm back. Am I mostly back?
A little bit, but it's not so much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on here. That's kind of weird.
I can hear
Sorry
you.
about this,
fine.
guys.
No, it's okay. It's all good. We can hear you. We'll press on. It's all good.
Okay, I'm sorry about this. I don't know what's going on.
So, tell me about Hon Tom.
Well, I started doing this. I mean, basically the week after Chicago C2E2, I knew that we were kind of obviously we knew that we weren't going to be having shows for a while. Everything, we were planning going directly to Seattle for Emerald City Comic Con. And we heard that was not going to happen. I had Planet Comic Con, I think, a week after that. And, that wasn't going to happen either. And so I don't know about the two of you, but for me, the connection with other creators, with fans, with everybody that I get at these shows, it charges my batteries. It's the thing that kind of keeps me going in a lot of ways. And I hated the idea of missing that experience. I hated the idea of missing my time. Emerald City is one of my favorite shows, followed immediately by Planet and Kansas City. Those are where I see my friends. I hang out in some of my favorite cities. I have a fantastic time, and I wasn't going to do that. So I was like, I'm going to do this crazy little virtual convention and just see what happens.
And you've done 2 so far, right?
Yeah, we did 2. Yeah.
Are there plans for a 3rd?
I mean, we're not getting shows anytime soon. We're not getting conventions back. I can't, especially as my schedule ramps back up and I'm having to, I don't know about the two of you or any of your other guests, but I feel like there's a theme that's kind of going through our lives right now where we're trying to survive, spend time with our families, do the best we can, do some projects around the house that we've been wanting to and needing to do. But then there's also a thing where we're trying to focus on getting back to work as much as we can, however we can. And that's been a slow process for me. But the work's building up. More and more is kind of coming on. I've had to do a lot of pivoting and adjusting in my day-to-day work. Projects kind of got put on hold, some of them indefinitely. But I'm still trying to do as much work as I can. So having a third Hon Con, like these things, for just being me hanging out in a studio, talking to people kind of like this a little bit, it's amazing how much prep I have to do for them. It usually means like it's you know what, it's exactly like the feeling, prepping for C2E2, right? You prep for 2 or 3 days before the show. You get there, you do setup, which is a day. You do the show itself, and then there's teardown that still sucks, and then you're exhausted afterwards. So even my little virtual silliness takes up a week of my time. So yeah, there will be more, but maybe a little bit down the road. Maybe next month.
Yeah, I feel like that's been a theme with everything in everybody's lives. Is it's this virtual life that we've all had to take on seems to have taken over a lot more prep work. I know Mark at the store, we don't have customers walking in the door, but he's doing these live sales every day, and the prep for that takes all day. And then there's the prep afterward, not prep, but the work that the follow up that you have to do afterwards. I mean, for myself, like I'm a high school art teacher as well, and that has just taken over, consumed like every part of my day, where I could be in a classroom and literally go over the kids' shoulders and show them, this is what you did wrong with this drawing and this is what you can do. Where I could do that with 30 kids in the span of like 40, 50 minutes, it's taken me hours to do online. Whether to give them feedback or whatever, it's just taking hours and more so time than I ever thought it would.
Well, first of all, you're doing the good work, man. I have two boys, at home right now, a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I'm just blown away by what the teachers are doing. I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and you went to school and learned a very specific set of skills and a process for doing things, how you'd interact with your children, the kids, the relationship that you have there, and doing it virtually, it's like 3 times the work on the fly. It's amazing. I don't know. I appreciate teachers right now and the extra work that they're doing. It's important.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate you and the work that you're doing. It gives us a real form of escape from this reality that we're all living in.
So, Jeremy, who are some of your artistic influences for your career? And it doesn't have to necessarily only be in comics; it can be anywhere, but in comics as well.
Well, I think that in comics, my influencers were always people that were nothing like my style. I think that I was just as obsessed with Walt Simonson and all of like the crazy big fun stuff. I loved. I've always loved Jack Kirby. I love Simonson. Mike Mignola is probably my biggest creative influence, which you don't really see much at all in my stuff, but it's, I don't know, thematically there, or even just sometimes in the way that he, as a storyteller, I think maybe you see it in my work. I was talking with Scotty Young recently about like Humberto Ramos and how much of an influence he was on my stuff. But again, it's not something you see in my work. My work has a more, kind of realistic, stylized realism slant, I guess. But I still love that stuff, and I love the expression, and I love the character moments, and I love the way that they storytell. And so that kind of snuck into my stuff. I think a lot of my own style comes from artists like both NC and Andrew Wyeth. A lot of the illustrators like Lydecker or Norman Rockwell. where you had, stylization, but it was like slightly more realistic, heightened stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. Good answer. All right, we're done. No, that's it. That's all. Something funny that you mentioned Walter Simonson. We just talked to Walter and Louise yesterday. We just did a video with them.
Wonderful.
And it's always a little overwhelming because Walter was one of the creators that not only like got me further into comics, but like really kept me into comics when I was young. Something I always like to ask any of the people we talk to is, can you think of one or two particularly touching or harrowing fan interactions over the years? Either moments that you just really loved and meant a lot to you, or God, I hope that never happens again.
Yeah, I mean, it's always funny because I think that sometimes like the people that you build up in your heads to be these amazing experiences, you're like, I'm going to meet this person and it's going to be perfect. Those are always weird or somewhat disappointing. I was at a little tiny show in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was one of the first conventions that I ever went to. And it was when Ron Garney was drawing Captain America. And I was in college, and there were quite a few creators there. And a couple of the creators, who I'm actually not going to call out, were pretty disinterested in being there. And I went up to Ron's table and talked to him for a bit, bought a couple comics, had some stuff signed, got a sketch from him of Captain America that I still have today, and showed him my stuff. And having been to the other tables, I was really kind of disappointed with, I don't know if they were just sad to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or what it was, but it was kind of weird. But Ron wasn't. Ron was like great and kind. He was very encouraging. He was like, you need to do this and do this and do this, but I think you can actually work in comics. It's that thing that we've all had, at the table, where you've either been somebody that's inspiring or done, inspired someone else. And I actually talked to him about it a couple times since then. I'll run into him at conventions, and I mentioned it, and he's like, wow, I don't remember that at all. And he's like, usually I'm worried, that I'm a jerk. And I'm like, no, in this instance, you were the guy that like actually was really great and inspiring to me. Over the years, you end up meeting everybody in this industry. Even, you're at, whether it's, you'll be sitting next to, one of your heroes, or you'll have, you'll be out to dinner and you'll be sitting across from, Frank Miller or something like that. And it's always these weird things where it's like, I love how small this industry is and what being able to go to these conventions, does for all of us, because over the years you meet your heroes, and, most of the time I feel like I've been very fortunate in most of the time. Everybody that I've hung out with and talked to and sat next to has been really, really great. I'm always blown away, when I just assume that nobody knows who the hell I am. I'm, while I think that like talking like, like this, or even seeing me in a show, I feel like I'm kind of on, but I'm fairly shy. And so I just assume that, I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't know if you're going to recognize me or know who the hell I am. And like Jim Lee always surprises me. He's like, Jeremy. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, he's like, we met in Dallas, Texas. And, he like goes through the whole spiel, which I think is like maybe Jim's other superpower, but his ability to always like remember someone and then remember where they met like that, it's a special thing. And it's something that I think, taking those experiences, I think about it a lot. I try to think about, no matter how tired I am or not in the mood to chat or whatever, I do try to be warm to other people whenever I'm meeting them. And say hi and stuff.
Yeah, I really think that those interactions with people will remember them. And I've had a couple of instances where, people have come up to me about, the kindness that I've said about them or their work or anything, and that always surprises me that I don't remember that interaction, but they do. It's funny when you mentioned the Ron Garney thing, who's super nice. So I would, I'm not surprised that that's the way he was. But a few years ago at a convention, well, years ago, let me skip back to a few years ago. I was trying to break into the business and get as much feedback as possible from people. So I had sent my portfolio to Jim Valentino, one of the image founders, creators, and he took the time and he really eviscerated my work, but in a good way. Like he told me what I did wrong, what I had to do. There were red pencil marks everywhere, and I appreciated that because that's what I was looking for. And
Right.
a few years ago, I ran into him at a convention, and I called him out and I said, "Hey, I just want to say that I sent you my portfolio and you sent it back to me," and he winced. And he goes, "You're not going to hit me, are you?" And I'm like, "No." I said the very opposite. I really appreciated it, and he goes, "Yeah, well, I try to, give the best advice that I can, and but that's just the thing, is paying it forward. It costs you nothing to be kind, and people remember that."
Well, and I think that there's something truly special about running into somebody at a show. You get somebody that's in college or even high school or whatever it is. We're all old enough now that we've probably even seen this happen more than once. But like, you'll have somebody come up, they'll show you their portfolio. It'll be a 17-year-old girl that's getting ready. She's nervous about going into art school. She's trying. She's got these great designs and is working on all this stuff, and she shows you that portfolio, and you see it, and you see something there, and then you have the opportunity to talk about your experiences coming in and give that feedback. And then a year later or 2 years later or whenever it is, maybe it's that show the next year, they come up and they show you that portfolio and they've got new pages and they've grown and they're better. And then they might come back the next year. And eventually they come up and they're like, "Hey, here's my comic that I made," whether it's self-published or this is my web comic or whatever it is. And they're like, "This is that thing that I made," and you realize that like it didn't take much at all. It did just that little bit of interaction, and you're able to bring more people into this great, if somewhat weird industry.
It is a weird industry. That's true. One of the things that we love with the stores is we see a lot of kids that love comic books and are drawing their own stuff. And I'm talking like 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, that are the parents will be like, they draw all the time. They draw all the time. And one parent asked us recently, actually, just before we shut down, he's like, "What should I do?" And I said, encourage that, and not just encourage it, but applaud it. We can help you track down different art books, or we can show you different artist websites, or we do events here in the store, bring the kid in and talk to them. But just make sure that you encourage them as much as enthusiastic as they are about doing it. You should be as enthusiastic about encouraging it. And, we've seen some really talented kids come through the stores. It'll be interesting 10 years from now to see where they are, because a bunch of them are going to end up in our industry, and that's exciting to me. We've had kids ask us if they make their first comic, will we carry it on the shelf? And we always say, yes, of course we will. Not only will we carry it, we'll do a signing. Let's hook it up. Let's do it.
Right.
And I remember at one point, I'm sure you've met him, James Syme from Isotope out in San Francisco. One of his free comic days, like all of his guests were like 10 and 12-year-old kids that were making their own comics. That's my goal one day. I want to do that here because it's the greatest thing ever. So,
That's fantastic. Here in Joplin, my friend Seth Wolfshorndl is the high school art teacher, and he does creator-owned stuff all the time. He's always making his own projects with friends. But one of the things that he did for our community is he started a cartoonist club, an after-school club for kids to make comics and learn how to make comics. And every year they set up at Hurley's Heroes here in town during Free Comic Book Day with all of their stuff too. So you get the Cartoonist Club and Seth really highlighting the work that they do over the year. And it's a big, it's a very, very big event, and it's a lot of fun for them. And it's been cool because now Ethan, my 15-year-old, is in high school and he's in the Cartoonist Club. So he's there doing this stuff, and it's really special. I love, sometimes I think there's this thing where it like, I don't know. I don't know if sometimes the voices that people hear are the negative ones or whatever, but I feel like we have an incredibly positive, encouraging, nurturing industry. I think that while I think sometimes people may feel like artists or we don't want new people in, that's the absolute opposite of what it is. I think we want new talent, we want new creatives, we want new, regardless of anything at all. Like, we want people of all the genders, we want people old, young, it doesn't matter. If you're telling a comic story, we want it right now.
Yeah, I say this with all great affection, but artists are the weirdest, friendliest, most lovable people I've ever met, and it is, they go out of their way to help you out, and there's been far and few between interactions that I disliked with people than that I've liked. So it's true in this industry. So we're gonna get a little crazy. We're gonna ask you a question, because we ask silly questions sometimes. And this isn't the silliest one, but I would you be able to teach us in the next 5 minutes? Teach us something we don't know.
In the next 5 minutes, teach you something that you don't know.
Yeah. It could be less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No, it has to be exactly 5 minutes. We're done.
Exactly 5 minutes. Okay, so can I tell you a quick story about Joplin, Missouri, where I live, was a boom mining town. It was called Wicked Joplin. Sometimes it was really kind of crazy. And here, I've heard the term used, the dead wood of the Midwest. Even it really had some crazy characters, and like a lot of mining towns had a lot of big stories about people coming through and fortunes being made and lost. There's a famous hotel and bar called the House of Lords here in town that we had for a while, and you can see throughout the town that, like, in the structures, the houses, and all this stuff, we were a very vertical, beautiful. Like the 1890s was perfect for the city because we have all these amazing Germanic red brick buildings and a couple of mansions and various things. A lot of Victorian, almost Gothic architecture. And I live in one. There were like these 3 robber barons that kind of came in and really set up Joplin, and they all lived in this kind of small area, but it was, now it's blocks, but like, this guy lived on this hill over here, this guy lived right over here, and this, but so I live in one of the houses, and originally the guy that had my house, he was a dry goods merchant, but again, he was a robber baron. He really kind of came in and like made money on, like you owed your coat sold to the company store, right? So my studio is in the carriage house behind my house, And the house, after about, I think it was like early 1900s, was purchased by a doctor. Um, uh, and there's two doctors that live here, Grantham and Kilbane. And Grantham was this old doctor, and he was, for 70 years, was the doctor here in town, and then this later guy took over. But one night, many years after he bought the house, he gets a knock on the door late at night. So you get that, you know, uh, and he's used to that. So he comes downstairs. He's an older guy now, and he opens the door and looks down, and a pistol's pointed at him right at his midsection. And he looks up and realizes that it's Clyde Barrow. And he looks past, and Bonnie is holding up one of the. They always traveled with like another guy that, you know, helped. It was like their third man, right? It was Bonnie and Clyde and this other dude. Well, the guy had been shot, and so during this time, Dr. Grantham, his doctor's office was in the carriage house in my studio where I'm sitting right now. So, you know, he's like, "Oh, come on, we're gonna get you out." So they take the guy out, and they go into where, you know, people have maybe seen it, but like my kitchen, my bar area that during Hon Con, I've made some drinks in my bar area, but that was actually the surgery room back in that day. So, so Bonnie and Clyde and this other guy, you know, they get out there, and Grantham patches the guy up, you know, and everything, and gets him stabilized. It was like a through and through shot, and then because they were being hunted, they were being, you know, because of an altercation, and they'd been shot. Clyde's like, "Look, we've got to stay here until it gets dark again," because it was like the night before. So middle of the night, they stayed. They got the guy stabilized all day that day, so that like Grantham's wife had to come out and like bring sandwiches and, you know, to them in the studio. And then the next night, he famously, and Grantham wrote about this, but basically threw a wad of money to Grantham and said, "You know, we know you're going to tell somebody. Don't, just make sure you don't say anything about it until we're well out of town." And so then they went on their way, and Bonnie and Clyde were shortly after in another altercation and were killed. The funny thing was, Grantham didn't talk about it at all until much later, when he was kind of writing his memoirs. And so, yeah, there was a story about it in the Joplin Globe, in our local paper, about the retelling of Bonnie and Clyde in my studio space. Story.
I did not know that. I learned something today. See that?
There you go.
That's outstanding. Does it tempt you into a life of crime, Jeremy? Do you occasionally wish you were a bandit?
I am mostly a bandit. I'm I mean, you know, you know what? You have to look on the bright side of any situation, right? Like this has been incredibly weird and stressful, a hard time. But I love the idea that I can kind of go out and wear like a mask in public, you know, and I can always be like, "Hey, I'm pulling a heist here." No, I'm not pulling a heist, but I can at least feel like I am. You know, it's perfectly okay to wear a beanie or a hood and a mask right now, and you can kind of feel like you're you know, you're at least a little bit of a superhero or villain, you know.
When last we talked, you were doing your comics and cocktails. Are you still doing that?
I am. I kind of changed it a little bit, and actually, it came out of necessity due to all of this. I had fallen a little bit behind on my schedule because you know how making comics is. You don't get sick days. You don't get, you got to do the work. You sit at the table, and if a page takes you 14 hours, it takes you 14 hours. If a page takes, God, it'd be great if they took 4 hours sometimes. But it's all, I'm crazy, so I tend to make pages take longer and longer anyway. But I wasn't able to do as much with the comics and cocktails as I wanted because of my work schedule. And this fall we had a rough fall and had some family stuff, and so kind of getting back on track. I was just getting back on track when this happened, and I realized that the comics and cocktails project, while I love doing it and while I want to continue doing it, one of the things I needed to be able to make sure to do was the comics and cocktails thing was done via Patreon, and I was looking at Diamond shutting down, no new comics in shops, all these things happening, and we were all hit hard, and I think that more than ever we needed content, we needed new things, we needed something to bring just that little bit of joy, little storytelling joy into our lives. And so I changed the structure of my Patreon to be from the focus of comics and cocktails onto more comics. Like I wanted to, it's still comics and cocktails, but it's comics and cocktails. It's so it really became about process stuff and letting people see. My cat's excited about something. It became about time-lapse videos, like extended ones, and process stuff, and various opportunities for us to kind of, for me to interact with fans and give them something that they're missing right now. I've been working on a series of just short stories, like 3, 5-page stories that I'm writing, penciling, inking, doing some spot coloring in instances, doing the lettering. But I kind of wanted to do it all myself and just be able to put it up there and give people an experience that they're kind of missing out on right now.
That's awesome. So I have a couple more questions, and then Franco might too. So if we were to give you a penguin, what kind of hat would you buy for the penguin?
I mean, I feel like you just have to put a top hat on the penguin. I own a couple top hats. I own one that is much too small for me. It's almost like a child's. I mean, I've got a big head, so like, an extra large top hat's not going to fit on a penguin. But I've got one, and it's pretty little, and I think that's perfectly penguin size. So yeah, a top hat on a penguin. That's what I'd do.
Good answer. Wish I had thought of that. And then, what's your favorite ice cream?
Ben and Jerry's Americone Dream.
Nice. What's your favorite ice cream to throw at other people?
It really has to be like an ice cream that I don't particularly care for. Although, honestly, if it's the right person in the right scenario, I would even throw Americone Dream at somebody. But
that's B. Clay Moore, right? Like B. Clay
right.
Moore.
I mean, Clay just always deserves a scoop of ice cream to the head. Favorite. I would go with raspberry swirl. Yeah, not a huge raspberry guy, so yeah, I'd check that.
What's your favorite? What's your latest TikTok video about?
My personal latest, my 10-year-old son came to me and he said, I've been doing TikTok videos during all of this, and I was like, what? I had, and I was like, when did you start doing that? And he goes, oh, I've been doing them for a while now, off and on. but he's like, he's 10, so he's ridiculous anyway. But he's like, I'm really gaining some traction right now. So then he shows me, his TikTok videos, and it's all like they, it's timed to music and it's ridiculous, but it's like, talking about, doing virtual school and everything. It's him doing a close up of his homework on the table, and then the music kicks on. It's like boom, and then he knocks the homework off the table, and then it's him dancing. I need to catch up. I need to figure out how to use this technology and do something utterly embarrassing for myself. But I'll have to learn from Owen. So yeah.
Walter was telling us yesterday that he's doing Instagram now for the first time, and we were joking with him that Instagram is a social media, is a starter drug. We were eagerly awaiting his Snapchat and TikTok videos. I would pay money. I would pay money to see Walter on TikTok. So
I would love to see those two on doing. Now I've got to actually find Walt on Instagram right now.
Yeah. Yes. And then go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, is it Walter Simonson 5?
I'm not sure. I found it, but I'm not sure what it was.
Just one more guy doing comics. That's what he says. Wow, his beard looks more epic than mine right now.
We asked him yesterday if it was his he was growing his beard out so he could further supplant Odin as Allfather.
Right.
And of course he said yes. So
yeah, obviously.
So my last question, I don't know if Franco has any more, but so Red Mother, you're a series from Boom Studios. Do you want to plug that real quick? Let us know let our viewers know what it's about. And then if you have like your own Patreon or your own website, wherever we'd like to direct people to see you, please let our people know.
Yeah, so you can check out the Red Mother from Boom Studios. It is a 12-issue maxi series horror comic. 4 issues are out right now. We're doing 3 arcs, so 3-act structure, 4 issues each one. So the first arc is out. We're kicking off issue 5. That'll be back pretty soon. Once we get all of the shipping and stuff lined up and scheduling.
Yeah.
Currently, Danny Luckert, my artist, he is the does line art and colors, and Danny is brilliant. Every page that I get from this guy is better and better. I love working with him. Ed Dukeshire is our letterer on that project. He is fantastic. If you like horror, if you like stories about evil, dark things kind of coming at you, it's a book for you. The story basically focuses on Daisy McDonough. She's a woman that is out on a date with her boyfriend, and something happens and they're attacked, and he is taken, and she loses her eye. And it's really a story about healing and about finding yourself after loss, after you've lost part of yourself, after you've lost someone you love, and she finds her strength again. She was always a strong woman, but she finds a way to be okay. And she gets a prosthetic eye, and then starts to see red through it, and these dark things coming after her. And she knows that the Red Mother is coming and wants her for some reason, and she's just trying to survive that. So that's the story. I'm having as much fun as I've ever had making something. It's very much me focusing on the kinds of spooky things that I've always loved, and I'm having fun with it. So yeah, check it out.
I like that you said that dark things were coming for her, and as you said that, your cat came into frame behind you.
Yeah, well, he is the darkest thing.
And for any of you All Yeah fans watching right now, we have the Red Mother 1 through 4 on the shelf right now.
Perfect.
Jeremy, we always support your stuff. You're one of my favorites. You have been for a long time. Franco, do you have any other questions for Jeremy? Or Jeremy, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, that's how we always end.
Yeah, well, I did want to quickly point back to my Patreon. You can go to Patreon to just look up Jeremy Haun on there, and I should be pretty easy to find. And it's the Comics and Cocktails Project. Like I said, I do both the Comics and Cocktails thing, but a lot more comics now. It's a lot of fun. I did a membership drive recently for Hon Con where I gave people Hon Con convention badges with their names on them if they were new Patreon subscribers during that. And I got a few people that came on during that. They also got a little cool mini print that I worked on. And they got a special deal on my online store. So obviously, if anybody hears this and jumps on Patreon and wants to join, tell me that you saw me on this on live with you guys, and I'll go ahead and extend that to any of those people too. I'll give you that extra bag of goodies for signing up. So yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Franco, was there a way to let Jeremy take this video and put it up on his Patreon too? Because he had asked about that.
Yeah, I'll send them the link when we're done. Yeah.
Well, that'd be great. Thanks so much, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask. I want to ask you. I do want to turn around this question thing. Okay.
Sure.
What's the one thing that you guys are? And you can have more than one thing if you need to. And I hate to use one thing, but what's the thing that you're doing with your time right now that you didn't expect to be doing, but that's brought you joy during this?
Franco, you should go with that one.
For me, being the writer artist I am, there's always stuff going on in my head, like I'm sure there is in yours, all the time. But one of the silly off things that I did at the very beginning of this was I put up a Facebook post, almost kind of like a quarantine journal, and it kind of really resonated with a lot of people because I even forget what I wrote for the first one. Something about being in isolation, and I went outside and it felt like the birds were yelling at me. I came inside and it felt like my dog was yelling at me, type thing. And it was just like a silly, humorous one-off thing that I did. And it's turned into a daily quarantine journal that I put up on Facebook. And it's just gotten sillier and sillier. And I by no means make myself look good at all in any of them. I'm kind of an idiot, such as I am in real life. And I refer to my wife as the native who lives on the island with me. And it's just been fun, and people have been reacting to it really well, better than I ever thought they would. I thought it was just a silly thing for me, but every day I get a note from someone who loves it, or it makes their day, or it makes them laugh, or something that I need to turn into a comic or a book when I'm done. And that's been surprising, but fun.
That's excellent.
I can give you two. So I've only taken 2 days off during this whole thing. I took 2 Sundays. I kind of forced myself to, but most small businesses are week to week or every 2 weeks, and most comic shops, definitely fall into that. And I just knew that if we're not open to the public, obviously we want to comply with what the governor and the CDC and WHO put forward. So we don't let people in the store, and the few times we've done curbside, I have masks and gloves and clean constantly. But I do a daily live sale video like 5 o'clock almost every day, where we're just selling comics and graphic novels and stuff. And some people tune in because they want to buy stuff and get good deals, and some people just want to tune in because it's goofy. Right. And we were very, very concerned at the beginning of all of this that our stores would close and never reopen. And we're not now. The live sales have really not just kept us alive, but we're paying stuff on time, and that's a good thing. And when Diamond reopens, we're ready for that. And it's been humbling and overwhelming, the support that we've gotten. We had to diversify really quickly we have the Patreon, we have the thread list, and we have a brand new website with a new web store, and we're doing the live sales, and the follow up to the live sales takes hours. But people support us, people buy stuff from us, and they don't want to see us go anywhere, and that's really cool. For me personally, I had a customer in Florida that I've known for years and years and years, and her daughter is autistic, and it's nonverbal. It's pretty severe, but she's the sweetest little girl. I say little girl, she's a teenager now. And I did a dance video a few weeks ago. Just it was supposed to be a 10-second dance party, and
Right.
I had done one. I'd done one years ago in front of her, and it made her laugh, and it kind of endeared me to her. And I was talking to her mom on Facebook through Messenger, just checking on them, and she goes to a special school, and she hasn't been able to go to that school, so she's regressed a little bit. It's very, very difficult on her. It's very, very difficult on her family. And I sent them a 10-second dance party video just to make her daughter laugh. And she said that her daughter watched it like 30 times. So I've done, I don't know, 7 or 8 dance videos on my Facebook. Each one gets a little bit more complex. They're no longer 10 seconds. They're usually a minute or a minute and a half. I hate being on camera. I don't like dancing in front of people, but if it makes that little girl laugh, then it's worth every second. And I get messages from people that it's the thing that makes their day. Like every time they see one, they stop whatever they're doing to watch it. And that's pretty great. So
I love the little things. I love the idea that we can take and bring joy to one another. And it's so important right now. I mean, this connection, this talk, this time, you know, I was talking with Lori about it, and I was like, and she's like, you know, sometimes the words that you use to describe doing something are, you know, kind of tip like how you feel about it, right? Like, I have to do this, right? And I kept saying, oh, I get to see Mark and Franco, and you know, it's like get to is a completely different thing, and I love sharing with community, and I love reaching out to people and helping during this. This is what we have right now. This is what, you know, this is what we get. Like this connection, whether it's, you know, a daily journal, whether it's being on a podcast, whether it's, you know, doing dance videos, like this has been hard.
that reminds me, I have to do one when this is done. So.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, all right, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you. You know, thank you for, you know, chatting with us. Thank you for the Bonnie and Clyde story. I didn't know that. It's pretty great.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask that question now of everybody. I was very impressed when you started to tell the story of all the different names in and around Joplin. But then when you brought out Bonnie and Clyde, I'm like, oh, this just went up like so many levels right now.
Yeah.
I love that like, you know, small town America having such interesting little stories, and you know, we all have this. I mean, you know, I'm fascinated by history and by local history, and yeah, I'm proud that I you know, I didn't know that story when I bought this house, and then, you know, it's like I learned about it later, and it's kind of an amazing little fun fact.
Yeah, we're gonna all look forward to the graphic novel that you write and draw of the ghost doctor from your house at some point.
I would read the heck out of that. Jeremy, just real quick, it reminded me just when I was living in Chicago when we opened our first store. You know me, I'm a bit of an insomniac, so I would get on the train in the middle of the night and just walk around the city. And there's a jazz club there on the north side called the Green Note. And while I'm not a big drinker, I do like some jazz. And I went in there and I was sitting in a booth, and the guy goes, you know, that's Al Capone's booth, right? And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, Al used to frequent here, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, and that's his booth.
Nice. So hilarious.
It's the little things. So,
Cool.
Well, all right, gents, thanks for your time. And we'll talk soon. And if there's ever anything we can do for you, please just let us know. So
thanks so much. I really appreciate you guys. And thanks for doing this. Thanks for doing this for me and for everybody out there. Really appreciate it.
You're awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Talk soon.
Bye.